If the first thing you do in the morning is check your phone, then understand the world has claimed your spirit before your soul even had a chance to speak. There is a silence in the morning that belongs only to you, a moment where the world is not yet shouting, demanding, pulling. It's a sacred pause, a space untouched by chaos, where the divine waits, not to shout, not to scold, but to whisper truth into your bones. But too many people wake up chasing shadows, chasing noise, chasing approval. They scroll before they pray. They complain before they give thanks. And then they wonder why life feels so heavy, so loud, so empty. This is not just another speech. This is a call to reclaim your mornings, to awaken differently, to connect before you consume. Because the way you begin your day shapes how you walk through your hours. If you miss the devotion, you miss the direction. So stay with me, because before this ends, I promise, if you listen with your spirit, you'll never greet the morning the same again. Your morning is not just the beginning of your day. It's the birthplace of your thoughts, your energy, your decisions, and your direction. Before the world touches you, before the notifications hit your screen, before your feet hit the floor, something sacred happens. Or at least it should. The moment your eyes open is not just a physical awakening, it's a spiritual opportunity. What you do with that first breath, that first thought, that first choice, it sets the rhythm for everything that follows. So many people rush into their mornings like it's a battlefield. Alarm blaring, eyes squinting, mind racing. They swing their legs off the bed and step right into chaos without ever taking a second to pause and gather themselves. Their bodies might be awake, but their souls are still sleepwalking. And then they wonder why the day feels disjointed, heavy, overwhelming. But when you treat your morning with reverence, when you give it the honor it deserves, you begin to feel the shift. You see, the morning isn't just a clock ticking forward, it's a doorway. And when you step through that doorway with intentionality, your entire day listens. Energy listens. Emotions listen. The universe listens. But if you come in rushed, anxious, distracted, then that energy multiplies. The first thought you feed yourself becomes the seed that grows throughout your day. Feed it fear, and fear will grow. Feed it gratitude, and peace will take root. Let me say it plain. Your day does not begin when the sun rises. It begins the moment you decide how to meet the sun. Some people greet the light with groaning, others with grace. And that difference is everything. You are not powerless over your day. You are not a victim of the clock. You are not held hostage by the busyness of life. You have choice. You have rhythm. You have power. And that power lives in your morning. What's the first thing you say to yourself when you wake up? Is it, I'm tired, I'm late, I don't want to do this? Or is it something sacred, something strong, something rooted in who you truly are? Because that internal dialogue is not just background noise. It's a compass. It's directing your mind and spirit before the world gets a chance to interrupt. When you begin your morning with stillness, with prayer, with reflection, with a moment of silence, you aren't wasting time. You are reclaiming it. You are saying to the world, I'll come to you, but first I must come back to myself. That is wisdom. That is protection. That is power. The world will rush you. It will try to shove you into speed. But speed without direction is just distraction in disguise. People often say, I don't have time in the morning, but that's not true. You don't need an hour, you need intention. Even 5 minutes, if done right, can align your spirit with something greater than yourself. You can sit up in bed, close your eyes, and breathe. You can whisper gratitude for waking up. You can stretch your body and thank it for carrying you another day. You can speak one truth over yourself before the world speaks lies. You can do that. You must do that. Because when you neglect your morning, you abandon the most sacred part of your day. You give away your clarity before you even have a chance to access it. You step out of bed already feeling behind, already feeling defeated. But that's not how you were meant to rise. You were meant to rise on purpose, with purpose. Think of it like this. When a tree grows, its roots go deep before its branches stretch high. Your morning is your root system. You can't expect to weather storms if you don't take time to ground yourself. You can't expect to walk in strength if you haven't first stood in stillness. You can't expect to lead, to create, to love well if you haven't first poured into your own cup. And pouring into yourself doesn't mean selfishness. It means sustenance. You cannot serve the world if you are spiritually starving. You cannot give your best if you've neglected your own being. So your morning becomes not just a routine, but a ritual, not a checklist, but a covenant with your highest self. Imagine what would happen if you treated your morning like an appointment with destiny. What if every sunrise was a reminder that you are still here for a reason? That breath you just took, someone else didn't get it this morning. You're still breathing, still standing, still waking up. That alone is enough to devote a moment to gratitude. That alone is enough to say, let me not waste this day by entering it mindlessly. When you rise and go straight to noise, social media, email, stress, traffic, you're putting your mind and spirit in reaction mode. You're allowing the world to dictate how you feel. You're not choosing peace, you're absorbing pressure. But when you start with devotion, with intentional, quiet, focused presence, you are no longer reacting. You are leading. You are directing the flow of your life instead of being swept away by it. This isn't theory. This is practice. This is lived truth. Every great thinker, leader, healer, and creator, no matter their background, has understood the power of the morning. There is a holiness in it, a purity in the first light, a whisper that comes before the noise. But you have to be awake, not just in body, but in soul, to hear it. You have to stop seeing the morning as an obligation and start seeing it as an offering of time, an offering of space, an offering of self. If you can learn to honor your mornings, everything else in your life starts to fall in alignment. Your energy, your focus, your emotions, your relationships, they all take their cue from that first hour of your day. And let me be honest, it won't always feel magical. Some mornings you'll wake up heavy. Some mornings the gratitude will be dry in your mouth. Some mornings the silence will feel like struggle. But even then, especially then, you show up because showing up for your morning is showing up for your life. So get quiet before you get loud. Get centered before you get moving. Touch your spirit before you touch your phone. Open your hands before you open your inbox. Speak life over your mind before the world has a chance to speak doubt. That's what morning devotion is. That's what real alignment looks like. Because you are too valuable to live on autopilot. You are too called to be chaotic. You are too gifted to give your day away to distractions. And it starts not at noon, not when things fall apart, not when anxiety kicks in. It starts in the morning. The question is, how will you meet your day tomorrow? Will you rise as a victim of time, or will you rise as the master of it? Will you rush into chaos, or will you step into clarity? The choice is yours. It always has been, and it begins the moment you open your eyes. Devotion is not a formula, and it is not confined to walls built by men. It is not about tradition for tradition's sake or repeating words you barely understand out of routine. True devotion is not religion, it's relationship. And if you've only ever experienced it as rules, shame, and rituals disconnected from your heart, then you've been robbed of its real power. Devotion is a conversation. It's the soul turning its face towards something greater and saying, I'm here, I'm listening, I want to know you. Too many people have confused structure with spirit. They believe that devotion must sound a certain way, look a certain way, follow a script. They think it's only valid if it happens in a temple, a church, or a mosque. But the truth is, you can be fully devoted in the middle of a storm, in the stillness of your car, in the silence of your bedroom, or even in the mess of your emotions. Because real devotion doesn't wait for perfection. It shows up with honesty. Devotion is relationship, it's intimacy. It's sitting with the Creator, not because you have the right words, but because you have a willing heart. You don't need to sound spiritual. You don't need to perform. You don't need to fake strength when you feel broken. What you need is to be real. And when you come to that sacred space in the morning with realness in your chest, even if it's just a whisper or a sigh, heaven leans in. That is devotion. That is connection. There is a difference between practicing religion and living in relationship. One can be external, rigid, rehearsed. The other is alive. It breathes. It speaks back. It corrects, comforts, and carries. Devotion, when it's rooted in relationship, becomes the most intimate part of your morning, not something you do out of duty, but something you crave. Because when it's real, it feeds your soul in a way nothing else can. You don't have to wait until you've gotten yourself together to start this relationship. Devotion is not for the perfect, it's for the seeking. It's for the tired, the wounded, the unsure. It's for the one who doesn't always know what to say, but shows up anyway. That's where the power is, in the showing up, in the willingness to sit in the presence of something sacred and say, teach me to be still, teach me to listen, teach me to live differently. And once you experience that kind of connection in your morning, you'll understand why nothing else feels quite right without it. You'll notice when you skip it, you'll feel off balance, misaligned, distracted, because devotion grounds you. It reminds you of your place in this vast world, not as a speck, but as someone divinely seen and deeply loved. Devotion is not complicated. It's not about checking a box. It can be as simple as lighting a candle, breathing deeply, closing your eyes, and speaking from your heart. It can be reading a sacred text and letting one line speak directly to your situation. It can be writing in a journal, pouring out your thoughts and fears, your gratitude and confusion. It can be silence, not empty silence, but full silence, where your spirit listens and the divine speaks without words. Some of the most powerful devotions are the ones that are the least polished. The morning you weep more than you speak. The moment you raise your hands not in praise, but in surrender. The day you confess your doubts and feel no judgment, only love. That is what relationship looks like. That is what true devotion creates. A safe space between you and God where truth is welcome, healing begins, and transformation becomes possible. If your idea of devotion is tied only to punishment, fear, or rules, it's time to break free. Because devotion, when it's alive, is not something you dread, it's something you need. Just like you need water, like you need breath, it becomes your spiritual oxygen. You inhale peace, you exhale pressure, you inhale purpose, you exhale confusion. You begin to see the day differently because you've started it in the presence of truth. When you treat devotion as relationship, you also stop comparing your journey to others. You stop measuring your connection against someone else's expressions. You begin to understand that intimacy looks different for everyone. Some pray loud, some pray quiet, some dance, some kneel, some write, some sing. But the posture of the heart, that's what matters. That's what devotion recognizes. God is not looking for performance. He's looking for presence. yours. And in that sacred space, the lies begin to fall off. The lie that says you're not enough. The lie that says you're forgotten. The lie that says your past disqualifies you. Devotion reveals the truth that religion sometimes forgets to mention. You were always loved, always chosen, always seen, even on your worst day. Morning devotion, when it's built on relationship, becomes a daily act of coming home, coming back to yourself, coming back to your source. And every time you return, you're reminded of who you are, beneath the fear, beyond the labels, past the mistakes. You begin to walk differently, not arrogantly, but with quiet confidence. Not because life got easier, but because you know you're not walking alone. And that's the beauty of it. This relationship is not one-sided. It speaks back. It guides. It gives signs. It protects. It redirects. It gives peace when nothing else makes sense. And when your morning devotion flows from that relationship, the rest of your day becomes an extension of it. You carry that presence with you in conversations, in decisions, in disappointments. It becomes your anchor when things shake, your compass when things confuse. But like any relationship, devotion takes consistency. Not perfection, but consistency. You can't build intimacy in a rush. You have to spend time. Not always long hours, but real minutes. Focused minutes, honest minutes. Devotion can't be squeezed into your morning like a leftover task. It must be honored. Even if it's short, let it be sacred. When you approach devotion as relationship, you also give yourself permission to be human, to ask questions, to have doubts, to bring your pain into that sacred space instead of pretending it doesn't exist. You stop performing. You start participating, and that shift changes everything. You begin to talk to God not as a distant ruler, but as a present friend, a wise guide, a loving father, a holy companion. And he answers, not always in the way you expect, not always in thunder or lightning, but in stillness, in clarity, in a sudden shift of peace when you needed it most, in the words of a stranger that confirm what you just prayed for, in a sunrise that reminds you joy is still possible, in a scripture that wraps around your heart like a blanket. This is the kind of devotion that changes lives, not because you followed a rule, but because you built a relationship. And the more you show up for it, the more it shows up for you, not just in the morning, but in every moment that follows. You'll begin to notice it, that still, rooted strength, that unexplainable peace, that clarity in confusion, that voice that reminds you, you're not alone. I'm with you. Keep going. You'll stop chasing affirmation from people who don't even know your soul. You'll stop living for applause and start living for alignment. You'll stop fearing rejection because you'll remember you are already accepted. And that kind of knowing, that kind of peace, that kind of deep spiritual anchoring, it doesn't come from religion alone. It comes from relationship. It comes from devotion that lives, breathes, and speaks. It comes from mornings spent in the presence of something higher than you and realizing that higher presence has been waiting on you all along. Gratitude is not just a polite response or a moment of saying thank you out of habit. It is a mindset, a lens, a sacred attitude that shapes how you experience the world. When you begin your day with gratitude, you are telling life, I see you, I honor you. I'm not blind to the blessings, even when the burdens try to outweigh them. Gratitude, at its core, is your gateway to peace. Because the heart that is thankful cannot be anxious and grounded in truth at the same time. There's something powerful about waking up and choosing deliberately to notice what's right before noticing what's wrong. Because the world will always be ready to tell you what's missing, what's broken, what's not enough. But if you let gratitude be your first response, you've already positioned your spirit to live above the noise. Peace is not found in perfect conditions. Peace is not the absence of pain or pressure. Peace is the presence of perspective, and gratitude gives you that. It says, even here, even now, even in this, I will find something to be thankful for. That kind of mindset is not passive. It is powerful. It shifts your emotions. It stabilizes your thoughts. It teaches your soul how to rest even when life is demanding movement. When you practice gratitude as a part of your morning devotion, you start to see your life through a different filter. You begin to understand that joy isn't something that comes after everything is fixed. Joy is something that gratitude awakens right where you are. You could have the same circumstances, the same responsibilities, the same struggles, but a heart that is grateful will find beauty in the cracks and music in the silence. Too many people wait for peace to arrive through external change. They wait for the raise, the relationship, the recognition, but peace that is dependent on conditions is fragile. It's inconsistent. It disappears the moment something goes wrong. But gratitude builds internal peace, the kind that doesn't shift with the weather of your life, the kind that says, I have already been given so much. I will not overlook it chasing what I don't have. Even when life hurts, even when things don't make sense, gratitude is still available. You don't have to be thankful for the pain, but you can be thankful in it. Thankful that you're still breathing. Thankful that there's still a chance. Thankful for the lesson, for the strength that's being built in you, for the clarity that comes after confusion. Gratitude doesn't deny reality. It transforms how you live in it. And it's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing to see the full picture. It's about acknowledging the hardship without ignoring the hope. Gratitude says, yes, it's hard, but I still have this moment, this breath, this chance to rise again. That attitude, that's the birthplace of peace, because peace isn't the absence of problems, it's the presence of God. And when you invite gratitude into your morning, you invite His peace to settle in your spirit. Sometimes you have to speak it before you feel it. You have to open your mouth and declare what you're thankful for, even if your emotions haven't caught up. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it's a discipline. It's training your soul to search for the light when all you see is shadows. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. Soon, it's no longer effort, it's instinct. Write it down, speak it aloud, think it deeply. Let gratitude be the language of your morning, because the more you say thank you, the more your mind begins to notice the gifts you once ignored. The warmth of sunlight, the taste of your favorite tea, the way your body keeps moving, the people who show up for you, the doors that didn't open but protected you from something you couldn't see. These are not small things, these are sacred. And when you start seeing your life as sacred, you stop living it in stress. You start walking in peace, not because everything is perfect, but because your eyes are trained on the goodness that still exists. The enemy of peace is not just pain, it's forgetfulness. Forgetting what you've survived, forgetting how far you've come, forgetting the blessings that surround you. But gratitude keeps you anchored. It reminds you, it refreshes you, it resets your focus. So when you wake up, make it a point to pause and give thanks. Before the world steals your attention, give your first thought to appreciation. Even if your circumstances are stormy, you can still choose to be rooted. You can still choose to begin your day from a place of abundance, not lack. That is your power, that is your peace, and it starts with gratitude. The world is quick to label, quicker to criticize, and relentless in its attempts to shape who you think you are. It doesn't wait for you to find your footing. It doesn't pause to ask if you're ready. The moment you step out of your bed, the voices begin. Through screens, through comments, through the expectations placed on your shoulders and the ones you place on yourself. Doubt is loud, doubt is persistent. But here's the truth. You have the power to speak life before the world ever gets the chance to speak doubt. That first moment of the day is sacred. Before the emails, before the headlines, before the social media scroll, your soul is soft, open, and receptive. And what you feed it in that moment matters. If you wake up and the first thing you do is compare your life to someone else's highlight reel, you're not starting the day, you're surrendering it. If you begin by reviewing all your shortcomings, you're not rising, you're retreating. But if you open your eyes and decide to speak truth, to speak worth, to speak intention, you're not just starting the day, you're setting the tone for it. You don't need to wait for someone else to affirm you. You don't need the world's validation to walk in confidence. You don't need applause to stand tall. Your words have power, real power. Life and death reside in the tongue, and every morning you are given the chance to choose. So choose life. Choose words that uplift, words that remind you of your identity, words that bring clarity to confusion and calm to chaos. Speak life before the doubt comes creeping in, before the critical voice tells you you're not enough, before fear begins its familiar whisper that you don't have what it takes. You stop it at the door. You beat it to the conversation. You declare, I am capable. I am equipped. I am worthy. I am chosen. I am not who I used to be. I am becoming. That is not arrogance. That is alignment. That is you standing in the truth of who you are, not shrinking to fit someone else's version of who they think you should be. You have the authority to speak over your life, and yet so many people hand that authority over to the world, to strangers, to the critics, to the past, to fear. But this is your life, your mind, your morning. You must take it back. Every single day you are being shaped by words, either yours or someone else's. And the more you allow the wrong voices to dominate your internal dialogue, the more disconnected you become from your truth. But when you start your morning speaking life, you become grounded, rooted, focused. You don't get tossed by the wind of opinion or the tide of trend. You move with intention because your identity is not up for debate. It was decided the moment you were created. You were not put here to simply survive another day. You were not placed on this earth to operate under a cloud of insecurity and self-doubt. But the world will keep trying to shrink you until you forget how powerful your voice really is. That's why you must use it before they do, before the marketing tells you who you need to become, before the algorithm defines your worth, before the pressure of performance wraps itself around your chest and calls itself identity. No, you speak first, you speak louder, you speak consistently, because repetition builds belief. If you say it long enough, your spirit will catch it, your actions will follow, your mind will rewire. That's how transformation begins, not through luck or random change, but through disciplined declaration. Speak to the fear and tell it it doesn't own you. Speak to the doubt and remind it of your progress. Speak to your past and tell it you're not going back. Speak to your dreams and tell them you're still coming. And speak to your reflection and tell it you're enough, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. And this is not just about positive thinking. This is spiritual strategy. This is armor for the soul. When you speak life, you're not just reciting nice words. You're building an inner fortress. You are putting up walls against the invasion of insecurity. You are putting on truth like a robe and saying, "Today I walk in peace, in power, and in purpose." Some days you will feel the doubt before you even leave the bed. You will feel the old stories trying to pull you back under. But that's when it matters the most. That's when your words become warfare. You open your mouth even when it shakes. You speak life even when you don't feel it yet. Because faith isn't about feeling, it's about choosing. Choosing to trust the truth more than the lie. Choosing to declare light in the presence of darkness. You have to understand, doubt feeds on silence. It grows when you refuse to confront it. But when you speak, when you fill the room with words of life, doubt begins to dissolve because it can't survive in an atmosphere of truth. So don't wait. Don't delay. The world is already speaking. You need to speak louder and be specific. Don't just say, I'm grateful. Say, I'm grateful that I woke up today with breath in my lungs and strength in my body. I'm grateful that I'm learning how to heal. I'm grateful that I get another chance to try. I'm grateful that I'm not where I used to be. Let your gratitude be loud. Let your truth be louder. Let your spirit rise before the voices try to pull it down. This practice of speaking life, it's not just for the morning, but the morning is where it must begin. Because when you command your day with intention, when you clothe your mind in affirmation, when you prepare your heart in devotion, you carry that energy into every room, every conversation, every challenge. You don't walk in empty, you walk in full. The world may still try to speak doubt. It may still try to question you, belittle you, misunderstand you. But when you've spoken life over yourself first, none of that sticks. It bounces off your armor because your truth is louder than their noise. This is not a one-time event. It's a daily decision, a habit, a sacred rhythm. And over time, it changes how you see yourself, how you show up, and how you lead your life. You become unshakable, not because you never hear doubt, but because you've trained yourself to answer it quickly, boldly, completely. So tomorrow, when the alarm goes off, don't just get up, rise. Rise with words of life on your tongue. Rise with intention in your voice. Rise knowing that you don't have to wait for the world to tell you who you are. You already know. Speak it, declare it, own it, speak life. Before the world speaks doubt, every day, every time, every morning, there is a timing to everything in life, an unseen rhythm, a sacred cadence that moves beyond clocks and calendars. It isn't dictated by your urgency or your schedule. It's deeper than deadlines. It is divine. And the more you chase life according to your own timeline, the more frustration will find you. But when you start your day in devotion, real, honest, soul-altering devotion, you begin to align yourself with a higher rhythm. You stop rushing, you stop comparing, you stop feeling like you're behind, because in devotion, you are reminded nothing meant for you will pass you by. Nothing delayed is lost. It is simply in divine timing. Devotion is the daily act of surrendering your illusion of control. It's where your striving meets stillness. It's where your timeline bows down to trust. You begin to realize that your sense of late is often just your impatience talking, not the voice of God. The world teaches you to hustle, to grind, to push until you break, but devotion teaches you to flow, to listen, to align, and alignment is everything. There is a pace set for your life that fits you perfectly, a divine schedule you can't see with the naked eye, and when you try to rush it, you miss things, lessons, people, growth, healing. But when you rise in the morning and begin with devotion, you're telling heaven, I trust your timing more than my own. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. You're not giving up control. You're giving up anxiety. You're not quitting your dreams. You're handing them back to the one who planted them in you in the first place. Devotion, when practiced daily, teaches your spirit how to walk in sync with something greater than you. You begin to recognize divine pauses not as punishment, but as protection. You stop fighting closed doors. You stop forcing timelines. You learn to rest when you're tired instead of running into burnout because you believe something will be lost if you slow down. But here's the truth. What is meant for you has already been marked with your name, and devotion reminds you of that. It silences the rush. It stills the panic. It teaches you to wake up and say, even if I can't see the whole path, I know I'm held. I know I'm led. I know I'm right where I need to be today. That's the power of divine timing. It's never too late and it's never too soon. It's always right. And when you align with it, you stop living by pressure and start living by peace. The pressure to prove, the pressure to produce, the pressure to catch up with everyone else. It all begins to fall away in the presence of devotion. When you sit in silence before your day starts, when you read, when you pray, when you breathe with intention, you're not wasting time. You're aligning it. You're making space for wisdom to meet you before worry does. You're making room for clarity to find you before confusion has a chance. You're choosing to move in sync with the divine instead of running ahead and asking God to catch up. There's a reason why so many people feel lost even when they're doing all the right things. They've got the goals, the vision boards, the schedules, but no alignment. And without alignment, action turns into exhaustion. Purpose turns into pressure. Progress feels pointless. But alignment brings peace back into the process. It tells you that you don't need to rush what was always meant to arrive. Devotion opens your spiritual ears to hear what can't be said in noise. It gives you discernment to recognize when it's your time to move and when it's your time to be still. The world celebrates those who never stop, but heaven honors those who listen, who wait with purpose, who trust the process even when it doesn't follow the plan. You can only learn that kind of trust through consistent devotion, through daily surrender, through those quiet moments when you say, God, I don't know what today holds, but I trust you to lead me through it. And then you live your day not like you're chasing time, but like you're flowing in it, calm, grounded, anchored. When you're in alignment with divine timing, things begin to happen that you could never force. Doors open without knocking. Opportunities find you while you're busy being faithful. People appear in your life who carry answers to prayers you haven't even spoken out loud. And it's not because you manipulated anything, it's because you made space for it through devotion. Devotion realigns you every morning. It clears out the clutter. It reminds you of what truly matters. It keeps you focused on the eternal instead of the temporary. Because so much of what steals your peace is rooted in the fear of running out of time. But God is not bound by time. He operates outside of it. And when you align with Him, you begin to experience life in that freedom too. You stop panicking over age. You stop stressing over missed chances. You stop regretting every detour because you begin to believe deeply that everything has a reason and a season. You learn to look at your waiting season not as wasted time, but as preparation. You begin to see that the silence doesn't mean absence. It means alignment is happening behind the scenes, and that changes everything. The pace of divine timing doesn't match the pace of social media. It doesn't follow trends. It doesn't move according to applause. It moves according to what's right for your soul. And the only way to hear that rhythm is through devotion. That's why devotion isn't something to squeeze into your day. It's something to build your day around. It is the anchor that holds you when storms hit. It is the compass that guides you when decisions feel unclear. It is the whisper that reminds you you're not behind, you're right on time. You won't always feel it. Some mornings will feel dry. Some days you'll question if anything is shifting. But the consistency of devotion builds trust. The daily practice builds patience. It builds alignment. Because it's not just about feeling good, it's about walking in step with the divine. And when you walk in step, you stop chasing, you start receiving, you stop begging, you start believing, you stop fearing the future, you start trusting in the timing that's been orchestrated for you since the beginning. So the question isn't, how fast can I get there? The real question is, am I in alignment with the one who knows the way? Because if you are, you can rest, you can breathe, you can move without striving, because you know without a doubt that divine timing is never late, and neither are you. There is a storm happening every day, inside minds, across screens, through conversations, in the quiet spaces where doubt tries to take root. The world is loud with opinions, heavy with comparisons, and ruthless in its attempts to tell you who you are. It will name you before you can name yourself. It will reduce you to labels, past mistakes, or shallow assumptions. And if you don't have something deeper anchoring you, you'll start to believe it. You'll start to live a life built on whispers instead of truth. That's why devotion matters, because devotion builds an unshakable identity. Devotion is not just a spiritual habit, it's a lifeline. It is the sacred space where you are reminded of who you truly are. It's where the noise gets quiet and the truth gets loud. It's where you lay down the false identities handed to you by the world and pick up the name given to you by God. And when you do that consistently, something powerful happens. You become grounded, rooted, unmoved, not because life gets easier, but because your identity no longer depends on life being easy. Every morning, you wake up to a world that wants to define you. It wants to define your worth by your productivity, your beauty by a filtered standard, your value by your income, your success by applause. And if you start your day plugged into that system, you begin living according to it. You scroll and compare, you look and feel less than, you shrink, you question, you doubt. But when you start your morning with devotion, when you open your heart before your phone, when you sit in silence before stepping into stress, when you listen before you speak, you are choosing to root yourself in truth. And truth always precedes clarity. You start hearing the voice that says, you are more than what you do. You are more than what you look like. You are more than who left or who stayed. You are mine. You are chosen. You are called. That kind of truth doesn't just inspire you, it shapes you. It begins to build a foundation within you that nothing outside of you can touch. You stop being tossed around by opinions. You stop needing every person to approve of you. You stop chasing affirmation and start living from affirmation. You move differently because you're not questioning your worth every time someone misunderstands you. Devotion builds unshakable identity because it teaches you where your true value comes from, not from how much you've achieved or how little you failed, but from who created you and what you were created for. And in those early, quiet moments of the day, when it's just you and God, you are reminded again and again that your identity is not up for negotiation. It's not based on a vote. It's not altered by your emotions. It's rooted in eternal truth. So many people walk around carrying the weight of names they were never meant to wear. Too much, not enough. Failure, broken, forgotten. These names come from past wounds, harsh words, unmet expectations, and slowly those labels start to shape how people live. They don't take risks because they're afraid of failing again. They don't love deeply because they don't believe they're worthy. They don't speak up because somewhere along the way they were told their voice didn't matter. But devotion is the place where those names begin to fall off, where healing happens, where the voice of the Creator gets louder than the voice of criticism, where you begin to replace lies with truth. You come into devotion carrying heaviness, and you leave clothed in identity. You begin to walk out your day with a quiet confidence, not because you know everything, but because you finally remember who you are. It doesn't happen overnight. Identity is not built in a single moment. It's built through daily choices, choosing to show up in devotion even when you don't feel like it, choosing to listen for truth instead of reacting to lies, choosing to sit in silence long enough for the noise inside you to settle. Every day, you're either feeding the voice of truth or feeding the voice of doubt. Devotion helps you feed the right one. And this identity you build, it changes how you respond to life. When people try to diminish you, you don't break. You bless them and keep walking. When rejection knocks, you don't crumble. You remember that rejection is redirection, not reduction. When fear whispers, "You can't," you answer, "I was made for this." You stop flinching when life gets hard. You stop folding when pressure rises, because you know who you are. That is unshakable. Devotion becomes your daily mirror, reflecting back to you not the distorted image the world projects, but the original design that never changed. And the more you return to that mirror, the clearer you see. You stop playing roles that don't fit you. You stop trying to impress people who don't see you. You stop exhausting yourself trying to earn something that was already given freely: identity, value, belonging. And here's what happens when you walk in unshakable identity. You become a light. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that shines. People begin to wonder where your peace comes from, why you don't chase what everyone else chases, why you don't shrink under pressure. And it's not because you're better, it's because you're rooted. Because you've been in the presence of truth so often, you can't help but carry it with you. You start becoming a person of presence, someone who doesn't just react but responds with wisdom, someone who isn't moved by every little wind, someone who shows up whole because you've spent time in the secret place where your wholeness was restored. That's what devotion builds. That's what identity gives you. And the world will still try. It won't stop. It will try to rattle you. It will throw disappointments, detours, delays. But the difference is you won't be shaken. You'll still feel things. You'll still get hurt sometimes, but you'll recover faster. You'll bounce back stronger because your identity isn't built on sand. It's built on the rock of truth. There is no title, no platform, no relationship that can replace the peace that comes from knowing who you are. And there's no shortcut to that kind of knowing. It must be cultivated. It must be practiced. It must be anchored in devotion, not devotion done perfectly, but devotion done consistently. Every morning you rise and meet that quiet space. You're building. You're building a life that can withstand storms, a mind that knows how to return to peace, a soul that knows how to find its center. You're building an identity that doesn't crack under pressure or dissolve in insecurity. You're not who they said you were. You're not what the failures tried to convince you of. You're not defined by your past or confined by your mistakes. You are who God says you are. You are strong. You are loved. You are capable. You are chosen. And devotion is the place where that truth is not just heard, it's believed. It's received, it's lived. So every morning, return to the place where your name hasn't changed. Return to the voice that reminds you who you are. And let that voice grow louder than the world, louder than fear, louder than doubt. That is where your identity is built. That is how you become unshakable. There are two ways to live: chasing your days or choosing them. One leaves you empty, the other leaves you whole. Morning devotion is the difference. Don't let the day steal your stillness. Don't let the noise drown out your name. Rise and return to purpose, to peace, to power. Start tomorrow with devotion and watch your life shift, not with noise, but with knowing.